Hello, everybody. Happy Friday and welcome to today's show. Today, we're talking about reclaiming your week and how to unlock a full day with operational coaching. So, we're going to talk about operational coaching, what it is, and the impact it can have on your business. So, my name is Lori Quackenbush. I'm with APMG International and I'm out of New York, and I'm so excited to host today. We have a phenomenal show today with some great experienced panelists, and I'm really excited. Now, don't forget, get involved, put your questions and comments in the chat, and we are actually going to be answering a lot of live questions during our show today. We have a very experienced panel today, so I'm going to jump right in and let's meet them. So, ladies first. First, we have Barbara Trotter. Now, Barbara is the business owner and leader of Star Coach Leadership. Now, she spent over 2 decades fostering really good, genuine connections, prioritizing stakeholder needs, and cultivating collaborative environments. So, she's a key leader at Star Coach Leadership, and she specializes in leadership coaching, business relationship management, customer service, business management, and also sales. Now, her expertise lies in guiding professionals to elevate their leadership skills, enhance their dynamics, and to drive results. She's very passionate about star coaching, training, and education, and she's really excited about sharing her experience and answering questions today. Hi, Barbara. How are you? Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Lori. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Couldn't be more excited about having you today. This is a really good topic that I know everybody's going to be into.
Yes,
The
I'm
next we
excited.
Absolutely, and happy Friday. It's wonderful. The next we have Mark Rovers, the infamous. He's the leadership coach, consultant, and trainer. Now he's been educating, coaching leaders, professionals, and teams for decades. His passion is, and what he's been doing for 3 decades, is coach leadership, coaching, consulting, training, and education. So, just some examples of these areas he specializes in are the leadership coaching, BRM, service management, and information security management, project management, and also change management. And he's really looking forward to share some of his experiences and thoughts. So, hi, Mark.
Hey, Laurie. Great to be part of this show. It's uh, exciting to see, all the questions that we already have come in and that have come in, and also looking at the numbers of the people joining. So yeah, we're definitely on something new that a lot of people have heard about, a lot of people have not heard about. So we cannot wait to share. And in that spirit, I mean, this is all about leadership, helping leaders, becoming better leaders, and having them, giving them some time back. I found this quote, and you know me, I've started with a quote from
You
Simon
love your
Sinek.
quotes.
He said once, leadership is not about being in charge; it's about taking care of those that are in your charge.
I love that. That's a really good quote. And I don't know, not sure if we're allowed to name drop, but I did get some inside scoop on Star Manager, which we're going to talk to. Obviously, pretty hefty here. But I got to meet some of the folks at NBC Universal, and I know there's a lot of big names into this, folks. So this is going to be some really good information. So stick tight. We have a lot of people joining us today, quite a few live questions. So we're going to get started. But my first question is actually, this is a little rogue one for me, Mark. So sorry. What is STAR? Like, what does it mean? What is STAR?
Yeah. So operational coaching is part of the STAR concept. STAR is a trademarked word by Notion in the United Kingdom, and it's short for stop, think, ask, and result. And what this means, in essence, is a way to change behavior as a leader. As leaders, we sometimes feel when we get a question as far as, oh, we have to answer, we have to, be the fixers. And this literally is about stopping that behavior, as in, hey, is this maybe a coachable moment?
Right.
And if it is, then think, as in, think, is this a coachable moment? Ask a question, a powerful question. That's what the is referred to. Instead of simply answering the question and not encouraging the other party to think in ways as in, I could have thought of that by myself. I could have come up that by myself. So these questions make you think, empower people, and it's intentional. In other words, change also their behaviors, and then
Mm-hmm.
check on results, as in, okay, you said you had the solution, check on does it actually work, because you may have another coaching moment after that if needed. So it's a continuing change of behaviors, in essence. We'll talk
Yeah.
more about that.
Absolutely. I did read the book and I was just blown away by it. I just thought it was phenomenal. Just how fresh and new and what a different take it was on what we
It
know as
is.
traditional leadership coaching, right? So
It
I think
is.
this is going to be just
Yeah.
massive. All right, without further ado, let's get into some of the actual live questions, just not what I had to ask. All right, our very first question is, what is operational coaching? This comes from Matt, and who wants to take this first one? Barbara? Mark?
Yeah, I'll let Mark. I'll build off of
I'll
his.
go first. I'll go first, Ian, if you don't mind. So, operational coaching is a new way of coaching. Traditionally, you see leaders taking coaching courses, or they go to seminars where they learn how to coach. Typically, that means it's a sit-down type of coaching that they learn. And operational coaching is breaking through all that in ways, as in, the coaching is not a sit. Well, it can be a sit down, but what happens in many cases is that it fades away. There's no time to do the sit down. It feels uncomfortable. Leaders forget, as in, oh yeah, I was also a coach for this person. Operational coaching is like coaching in the moment. When you see that opportunity, as in, is this a coachable moment? Let me ask a powerful question and see if we can come to a solution in a different way than me just simply answering it, and you just completely always depending on me answering these questions.
Right.
Maybe you already know the answer. So it's a different way of leading, which doesn't cost more time. Where what happens with traditional sit-down coaching, as in, oh, I need to
Right.
carve out an hour to coach. This is as in, instead of answering the question, using that same time to ask a powerful question and make the other person think, and empower the other person. In essence.
I think that's so powerful. So instead of having that sit down, maybe it's an hour
Yeah,
long coaching moment where, who knows how people feel about it, you can just kind of turn it on
yeah,
its dime and really have that coaching moment in that moment, which obviously, if you break it off in chunks, is going to be easier to kind of resonate with someone anyway. So I love
right.
that. Barbara, did you want
Yeah,
to add to this at all?
Yeah, I want to build off of what Mark was talking about. Think about this. Your team member comes to you, says, "I'm stuck." Right? How many times does that happen to all of us?
Mhm.
And this client keeps pushing back, and on the proposal that we're doing. And I don't know what to do. So they look to you as a leader to tell me what to do. Now,
Right.
traditionally, most of us would jump in like, "Oh, try this, do this." But I've actually tried operational coaching, and you pause and you ask something like, you know, what have you already tried? What do you
Right.
think is really going on here? Suddenly, you're not solving the problem for them, right? You're helping them see the problem differently, and you're unlocking their thinking. And it's so amazing because you literally see the magic happen in
Yeah.
front of you. And that's where their confidence and their capability really starts growing. So it's really coaching woven into everyday leadership. And it's not extra work, it's just a better way of working.
Right. I love it. I love it so much.
Yeah.
Again, I had the pleasure of kind of going through pieces of the course in the book, and just such a different take on what we think of as for coaching. Good stuff, you guys. All right, let's get into our next question. Our next question is also, don't forget, we do have Ella in the live social chats, guys. So don't forget to put your comments. And again, thanks to everybody that's here and joining. Hi, Linda, sunny Oxfordshire. It's a little chilly here in New York today. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. All right, our next question, let's get right into that, is what are some examples? This is a good one. What are some examples of the impact of operational coaching, and is this scientifically proven? This comes from Steve.
We'll take this. I will happily take this one. I'm excited about this one. So it's big. We're talking about real shifts, like managers spending less time fixing problems and more time building the employee's capabilities, right? One global client reported a 70% increase in
Wow.
coaching conversations across the business, right? So that's not just a stat, that's a
Right.
culture change, right?
That's huge. That's
So,
so important.
right. And here's the thing, it's not just making people feel good, it's driving performance. So you are seeing the ROI. Teams are solving problems faster, there's more accountability, and people are really actually thinking for themselves instead of just waiting for orders, right? And for me to just say, do this. So instead of jumping straight into solving problems for my team, you're able to create a space for them to think, grow, and take ownership, be empowered. And like I said, that is honestly where that magic happens. And
Right.
you shift from being the fixer to the enabler, right?
Love that. Love
And
that.
that's when you see that performance, trust, engagement just skyrocket for your employees.
I love that. Fixer to enabler. And you made some really key points. We're talking about at the end of the day, everybody wants ROI. Does this work? How does this work? Right? Has it worked for others? What are some of the case studies? And that what I love about STAR, and I know we'll get into this in more detail, is just the fact that it is proven. We have this, so many stats and so many huge companies that are getting into this and finding success. So I think that's huge because at the end of the day, everybody does want a real ROI. How is this going to work? How is this going to shape that culture inside the teams? And again, have people start being more accountable and owning what they're doing, right? Mark, did you want to add anything to this?
Absolutely. And this is not rehearsed, but you've mentioned the book twice. So I found the book, and this is the book that Laura is referring to, The Answer to the Question. I'm not sure you tilted. But anyway, so that's the book she's referring to, The Answer to the Question, which is basically all explaining what we're talking about in this show and so much more. But yeah, I want to add to this what Barbara just mentioned, that when you ask these powerful questions, there's science that has figured out that it activates a different part in your brain, a higher part of your brain that is activating parts of your brain that makes you think deeper and um, respond differently, take ownership, makes you a lot more comfortable, or it raises comfort. In other words, because of that different brain part that is being activated, the results are just phenomenal. So science is now also backing
Right.
it. Yeah,
It's like that
So-
feel good, right? It's
it is.
you're
Yeah.
just changing how you're thinking instead of like, oh no, I gotta go talk to my manager about a problem that they have to fix. It's more
Right.
like I'm taking ownership and I feel good about that. And that at the end of the day is what people want for, to really love their jobs and to feel like they're contributing and they're good at something. And what I
Exactly.
also want to say is like, the book, The Answer to the Question, and the whole STAR coaching and manager and training, all of this is not just applicable in the workplace. And you can try this at home, guys. Like I've tried this with my husband, you can do different things with this. So I just think it's such a phenomenal way
True.
to kind of just change the way you interact with people, not just
Yes.
for ROI in the workspace, but in relationships too. So
Yep.
Yep.
really good stuff. Okay, let's
Even with
keep
your kids.
even with your
Lori.
kids, right? Even with those
Yep.
kids. All right, let's keep going. We have a ton of questions to get through. I'm going to try to get through all of them today, but we'll see how much time we have. So, next question is how do you enable staff members who seem to lack the aptitude to be independent or maybe challenged by a deep-rooted barrier? This comes from Bob. And who wants to take this one?
I'll take it. It's a great one. Because people build up these blockages that often it happened because of whatever happened to them in the past, as far as not never being able to think, because they were just kind of wired as in I have to ask and then somebody will tell me. So it's a really important question, this one, because I remember this story from one person who literally she was considered, and well, you don't have it. She lacks initiative. She needs more direction. And there was this manager who figured out about, learned about operational coaching and thought, well, let me try it. Maybe we're wrong about her. And asking questions such as, what would success look like if you felt more confident handling this on your own?
Right.
And getting into that deeper learning and activating that other part of your brain, basically. And of course, it wasn't one question. Of course, he kept doing this for a little bit. Turned out that it wasn't lack of aptitude. It was simply years of not being asked. It was basically she was trained to depend and not to be the one that can make decisions. I
Right.
mean, people were programmed almost, and
Right.
how often does that happen in organizations, right? I just have to ask, I have to ask for permission. I'm not able to do this. I'm not allowed to do this. And with these powerful questions, all of a sudden it says, oh, I can do my own answers, or as in
Right.
make it as in because I already knew the answer. I just needed, the blessing or the confirmation from my
Right.
leader.
Right.
And in many cases, I said, well, yeah, I could have done that, but I need that permission. Well,
Right.
maybe not so much.
Right. That's a really good point because I feel like we're kind of stuck in a box, right? And you can't really get
Yes.
out of the box. And if you want
Right.
to have a word or have something to say, maybe people don't feel like they can or should talk about it. So I just think this is such a great way for people to really engage and again do better all around.
Right.
Barbara, did you want to add anything?
Yeah. Yeah, Lori, thank you so much. Honestly, that story, about, I believe her name was Maria, it
Yeah.
really hits home, um, because it really flips the script on what leadership is, right? It's easy to think as a leader that our job is to spot who's strong, who's struggling, and then adjust accordingly. But operational coaching teaches us something so much deeper. It's not about labeling potential, it's about unlocking potential,
Mhm.
right? When you shift into an inquiry led approach, you start seeing what looks like resistance, and it's often just protection. So a
Right.
lot of times, people are protecting themselves from failure, from judgment, from being wrong. I've been there, done that. And,
We've all done.
your questions, genuine, curious, non-judgmental, like they actually become the key that opens all of that up.
Right.
And here's the leadership growth part, right? You as the leader, you grow too. And because you stop measuring success, how quickly you can fix things, you start measuring it by how much your people are evolving and the
Right.
culture is changing.
And that's so key, right? Again, we kind of go back to ROI and be able to measure this, right? Because at the end of the day, you want to be able to know that what you're doing and this is really working, not just, revenue, ROI, but like again, with the culture
Yeah.
shifting and changing and seeing better outcomes from your employees, which again leads to more, retention of employees, right? Because if they're happy employees, a good employee will stick around, right? So
Yep.
again, that goes back to, your costs, right? If you have employees that stick around and do a good job and care, right?
Yeah.
Good stuff. All right, we have so many live questions coming in, guys. Let me get to our next one. Our next question, let me pull this up here, is this is a great one. So, how does asking powerful questions actually increase retention? This is coming from Sarah. Who wants to take this on?
I'll take it.
Great question. Great questions, guys. Thank you.
And just to piggyback off of what you were talking about, where the ROI comes into play, a lot of times people don't think about that. They don't think about the fact of retention, right?
Right.
They're
Right.
they're thinking, oh, it's just, training, and that's all cost. So,
Right.
here's something that might surprise you though. So the teams that experience operational coaching honestly see a 74% improvement in retention. That is
That's a big
huge.
number.
That is
74%?
huge.
That is huge.
74%. And these are like case studies and everything. So this is not just, I'm not just pulling numbers out of
Right.
out of thin air. And you why? Because when people are asked powerful questions, they feel seen, they feel heard, they feel
Yeah.
valued. And that's what people want, right?
Right.
It's not about
Right.
micromanaging, it's about co-owning like their growth. And
I love
I
that.
remember
I'm going to write
as a
that down.
manager,
Co-owning growth, like
co-owning
that.
their growth, right? I remember as a manager who, started asking my team things like, what's something you've done recently that you're proud of? Or what's one part of your role you wish that you could shape more? And, one of my members was someone who had been halfway out the door, not really had a lot going on, right? Paused and said, you know what? No one's ever asked me that before.
Yeah. Yeah.
And 3 months later, they're still they're still here. So, and they're more engaged than ever now.
Right.
So, not because, the role changed, but because his voice mattered. And I
Right.
gave him that empowerment, right? I
Right.
valued, I saw him. And that's the power of a question that invites people to stay.
Right. To feel like you're being heard. Right?
Yes.
People want
Yes.
to be heard.
Yeah.
So, Mark, did you want to add to this?
I think she said it all. So
She kind of
I think
did.
we're good.
She kind of stole
Yeah.
your thunder, Mark. She did. All right. Well, this is good stuff, guys. I love this. Again, I've seen this firsthand, and I just so different from anything I've ever seen out there in the market today. So I just absolutely love it. All right, let's get into some more questions. We're going to try to get through as many as we can. So this is a really good one. This is at the end of the day the return on investment. How does operational coaching improve team performance? This comes from John. Mark, I'm putting you on the spot.
I'll take that one. Yeah, I'll take that one. I'll take that one. Yeah, it for sure does improve team performance. Because imagine, your whole team feels a lot more empowered, as in, oh, I don't have to ask permission for everything. There's for certain things that, I thought of myself and I'm allowed to do now. And I'm
Yeah.
intentionally enabled to do these things. So team members basically, they turn into managers almost, and they become multipliers, not bottlenecks. So the leader is no longer the bottleneck. I have to go to this leader
Right.
asking permission. And in other words, it helps with the whole team spirit. So instead of one person that has all the answers, which is unusual, really rare if you think about it, you create a culture where everybody is allowed to think, right? And it's expected that you think and contribute and step up instead of
Right.
having to wait and ask for permission, or as in, what do I do next, or what do I do now, or I'm stuck here. So it's a shift in momentum, because it will spread, through whole teams. And there's actually, and Barbara's referring to that earlier, these numbers that we're throwing at you, that these are not made up numbers. The London School of Economics, they did actually a 2-year study to compare 62 companies from 14 industries to a control group of companies who didn't even know they were a control group. And those 62 had star coaching going on. They went through the training and they went through the cultural shifts. And as I said, it's a 2-year study that was basically paid for by the UK government. So it was considered a big deal to actually have that done that way. It had to be independent because there was no commercial ties between what they did and.
Right.
In other words, these numbers, like for example, the operational coaching trained managers, they saw a 26% increase in performance of the team. I mean, imagine 26% increase in performance. Simply by approaching them differently, enabling them, asking powerful questions. I mean, it sounds like, okay, we're trying to sell you something, but this is scientifically proven, independent research, a 2-year study. I mean, who does that, right? 2-year study these days. So yeah, it's a great story. Operational coaching, things have an impact also on a team. So, questions like Barbara was already mentioning. Questions like, what is the one thing that you haven't considered? When somebody asks you, I ran out of options. Well, what is the one that you haven't done, right? Thought of.
Right.
People may already thought when, well, I cannot do this, or that would be too much, or yes, or what do you see? Who see things differently? And so, in other words, these questions, these are just examples, enable also teams where team leaders sometimes run meetings and they think they have to be talking for an hour long, and not giving people the chance to basically think or chime in.
Right.
Leaders that shift and start asking these types of questions, their life changes and the whole team's spirit changes in essence.
Right.
So yeah, it definitely has a ripple effect.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned it. You talked about we've got stats, we have case studies on this, how well this is working, and I'm just going to say I feel like there's a lot of coaching or leadership stuff out there, but this is just such a unique take backed up by
It's different.
science, backed up by numbers. And I kind of feel like now's the time for this. I mean, we're all going through, whether you like it or not, some different changes. And I think really digging in deep for companies to say, hey, how can we have better performance with our employees? How can we connect with our employees better? How can
Yeah.
we develop a better culture so people stay? How can we change our ROI, change our revenue? How can we really move the needle in these uncertain times, right? So
True.
I feel like now more than ever is the time to really dig into this. So again, thank you guys for being such obvious experts on this, and really appreciate it. Now we have so many questions, guys, coming in, so we're going to try to get to as much as we can. Let me get over to the next one. All righty. So our next question is this is a good one. This is some examples. So what are some actual examples? Because I think I was going to get to this anyways and ask it if nobody else had. What are some typical examples of how operational coaches actually increase the financial bottom line? This comes from Jennifer, and again, back to ROI finance. How does this help?
I have a short example.
Go for it.
So one company saved over 1.2 million in just 6 months.
Oh, that's
Again,
all.
these are not numbers we make up. This is real
Yeah.
real world stories. And the way they were able to do that was by reducing the rework that had to be done. So the managers that use operational coaching to shift conversations from blame to learning, right? How
Right.
many organizations literally say, hey, something went wrong, we need a meeting and talk about that, right? How much time do we spend on, you know, finding blame, and then
Right.
nobody feels good,
Right.
right? It's a lose-lose situation.
Right.
As in, what can we learn from this, right? We all are humans, we all make mistakes, but what can we do better next time, right?
Yep.
It shifts the whole spirit of these conversations. And then again, less rework, less mistakes are being made because people feel more responsible, more
Yeah.
empowered, and in other words, people will come up with faster solutions because they feel enabled. It is allowed. It is okay. More ownership, basically, right? People take ownership instead of well, I just do my job and I just do my thing, right? So that also created that cultural shift and less rework. I mean, it can have a huge impact quickly if you think
Sure.
about the amount of
Yeah.
time we spend on pointing fingers and finding the blame. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just hours
Yeah.
and hours, and yeah.
And even like
So
you
that
mentioned,
number,
oh, sorry, I'm just going to go back to your last question that you mentioned. You talked about the bottleneck, right? About how much,
yeah,
things get caught up in the bottleneck and that wastes time, money, resources. It comes to the bottom line, right? Things aren't getting
true,
solved. Things are just stuck in outer
true,
space sometimes. Nobody knows
yeah,
where it is. They're blaming other people. So we can see how, that can just really, be game changing. Barbara, did you
Yeah.
want to add to this at all?
Yeah. There's tons of examples, but another organization actually cut onboarding time by like 35%. Translating into so they did everything more streamlined on the productivity and brought in more profit, right? Because you get people getting on faster. So new hires weren't just being told what to do, they're being coached to think, decide, and contribute from day one. And that accelerated that ramp up, right? It saved time, it saved money, it built confidence. And I can't stress enough that it allowed the people to be seen. That is so incredibly
Love that.
important. Yeah.
Be seen. So important. Again, seen, heard, just so important, so valuable. Again, especially now that's going on. All right, some more questions. We're going to move right along. Sorry, I'm going to speed this up because I'm going to try to get as many of these questions as we can. And again, thank you so much for everybody who's joined. We have so many people on the socials chiming in. Really appreciate it. And don't let me forget to talk about the resources and some of the actual examples that we have here on resources tab. So you can actually go in and get some information on it as well. So, hey, expand my screen. Sorry, guys, technical issues here. Okay, the next question is from Susan. And again, I love that we're getting into the nitty gritty as an ex-finance girl, the ROI. Why is it that the average ROI per learner after applying operational coaching is 74 times over? Comes from Susan. Which one do you want us to tackle this one? You mentioned 74 already, Barbara. It's all you.
Yeah. So the average ROI is 74 times over because learners don't just know something new. They actually start doing it differently, right? Again, this is a culture change. This is not just a one and done.
Right.
Take one regional manager who, just a few weeks of using operational coaching, she was able to reduce her one-on-ones by half the time and honestly doubled their impact. So her team started solving issues before they even reached her. And she actually was wondering if everything was okay for a minute. Because she didn't, but she realized that they were actually they're becoming self-sufficient.
Yeah.
And that freed her up to focus on strategy for the team. And it honestly saved the company thousands of productivity.
Yeah. Spending more time on the big stuff, right? The stuff that matters instead
Yeah.
of these micromanaging little conversations, right?
Exactly.
Love
exactly.
it. Love it. Mark, did you want to add to this at all? Should we?
Yeah, just one quick number to build again. If people feel empowered, and let's say you have clunky processes in your or chunky processes in your organization, and they are empowered to make changes or process changes without asking for permission. People often know more, know so much better as far as how things can be done more efficiently and effectively.
Right.
One of the students shared $250,000 savings after several months of changing a certain process. Again, not numbers we make up. That's what they share with us in essence.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, that just goes back to the validity of this is just having the numbers to back it up. Again, the return, because that's what we all need nowadays. All right, guys, I'm going to keep going. Our next question. This is from Karin, and this is: in what way is operational coaching different from other executive coaching approaches? This is huge. This is the nuts and bolts, the peanut butter. Why is this different? What's different?
I'll take it.
Mark?
Yeah, I already talked about it a little bit earlier. These sit-down sessions, while they seem fantastic on paper, in real life, they may start off with high energy and great intentions, and leaders come back from these seminars and workshops and wherever they go to learn that. Just imagine the following: you work for a leader who says, "Hey, I took this course, and we're going to do a coaching. So next week you're up, and then we're going to sit down for an hour. I'm going to coach you." So this employee is now looking at this person as in, yeah, exactly. So you were my leader, and now you're my coach. And as my coach, I'm supposed to open up to you and share all my secrets and what goes on in my life and all that. I mean, excuse me, I have so it's quite uncomfortable in many cases because some leaders, it says are not coaches, but they're being told to be a coach.
Some would be better at it.
And the other part is that we see too many times that it starts, with great intentions, but 9 months later, so little is going on as far as coaching.
Right.
In other words, people get busy, they don't see the results, it's not working. The leaders forgotten what they were taught as far as, there's a difference between a coach and being a mentor and being a leader. It fades away. In other words, it becomes less impactful. And these sessions where they learn all this, they're not cheap. Right. So a lot of money was spent. Whole teams are sent to these courses. And then a year later, if half of them are still even doing it, you're kind of lucky. In other words, it's not sustainable.
You just took the word out of my mouth. Sustainable, which is at the same time.
That's the key word.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a shiny new toy that somebody has. But if they don't actually make it sustainable and actually put it into their everyday practice and do it on the regular, and again, live and breathe it, it's just wasted money.
It is. It is. This is real time. Instead of answering the question, ask the question. It doesn't cost you any additional time. There's no sit down involved, right?
Right.
This is also scalable. If you are, let's say, the C person, and you have VPs reporting to you. Well, these VPs could also be starting to do operational coaching, and the directors for them could be starting to do operational coaching, and the managers working with them. So it's a whole cascading ripple effect that you can
Right.
get going, basically, to start that culture in your organization. It builds this independence that people often are looking for in a job.
Yeah. Now, Barbara, did you want to add to this? We do want to get into, we have a poll here that I want to pull up in a
No,
second
let's
here.
go into the
Let's get into
poll.
it. I
Yeah,
know we're
let's
running,
get
we're
into- 'cause
running
I
out
know
of
we
time.
have, yeah, we have a lot of, seems like we have a lot of questions. So I want to get to as many as we possibly can.
Yeah. All right. So I'm calling for my techie. So pull up the poll here. Bear with me, guys. All right. Poll is live. So folks, go ahead. There's a live poll there. If you want to go ahead and put in your information, it's on the webinar. So go ahead and check that out. So really appreciate that. And, we're going to, compile everything, and we'll talk about it more at the end, and we'll supply everybody with some information too. So we're going to get right into the rest of our questions while we have time, guys. I know we have tons of live questions. Again, we're not going to be able to get to all of them, but we're going to try. So the next question is this is a really important one. I know we kind of touched on this, so maybe we'll be kind of quick on this one, but how does operational coaching contribute to a coaching culture? Again, I'm going back into culture.
This would be me
Barbara,
all day.
take that.
Yeah. So I'm gonna kind of take a little bit off of what Mart said, and operational coaching, it definitely creates that ripple effect, right? It doesn't just coach the person; it actually shifts the culture, and that's the difference. Having spoken to a team that we are operational coaching have been embedded for it's about a year. And one of the team members described it like it feels like we're allowed to think now. We're not just reacting, we're reflecting, we're growing, and we're actually challenging one another. But they're doing it respectfully.
Right.
Right. And that's the heartbeat of a coaching culture. And it's needed right now. Right.
Right.
It's when asking, what do you think? It's a simple question, and a lot of people don't ask it.
Right.
And it becomes the norm, not the exception, but the norm.
Right.
And managers stop giving instructions and start growing leaders.
Right. That's huge.
It's when silence in a meeting isn't awkward anymore. It's a space being made for somebody else to step in and then ask another question. Right. I don't know about you, but I've been in a ton of meetings in the beginning before, we implemented a lot of this, and it was really that awkward silence.
Oh yeah.
Not fun. And now, it's not like that. It has just changed dramatically. And here's the thing, it doesn't take years. It doesn't. It starts with one manager, one person in the company to ask better questions. And then suddenly the whole team starts showing up differently. They start seeing the changes, right? It's a true coaching culture where people feel trusted, empowered.
Right.
And I know I sound like a broken record, and I'm not going to apologize for it, because it just means that people are genuinely being seen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And once they feel that, they don't want to go back.
Yeah. You know what I love about this too is I feel like it's industry agnostic, because I remember being back in my investment banking finance days, they'd call us into a big meeting, and they'd be, talking about something, and they would never, first of all, they wouldn't ask your opinion, what you thought, if you had any ideas. And if they did, it was like crickets, because nobody wanted to step up and, get called out or say something stupid. Right. So there's like that culture change when you can actually feel like you're comfortable to say what you want to say. And, it's met with, like you said, respect. And I think this can resonate. I know I touched on it earlier, but not just in the workplace, no matter what kind of industry you're in, but also in your everyday lives and your your relationships and things like
Yes.
that, friendships,
Mhm.
Yes.
all that good stuff. So I think there's
Yep.
just so much wiggle room. This can just people can just benefit from this in so many ways, not just from a, corporate standpoint and, balance sheets, but in your everyday. So I really, really can appreciate that.
Yeah.
Um, did you want to touch on this, Mark, or should we keep
Let's move
going?
on.
Let's keep
Yeah,
going.
keep
All
going.
right. I like it. Let's go. Okay. So our next question, this is from Craig. Oh, this is a good question. Where can you find out more information about operational coaching? Where can you find this information, Mark?
I will take this
Barbara?
one. Um, so, Craig, if you're curious and want to dig deeper into how operational coaching can, how it works and how it can work for your organization, can check out starcoachleadership.com. You'll find quick insights, interviews, examples of how teams are using this every single day. It's very user friendly, very practical. There's a great overview there, honestly, plus real stories and data. I'm going to
Data.
repeat this and data so we're not just pulling numbers if you want to see the impact for yourself.
Yeah. Love it. I don't know if I'm supposed to name drop, but I did again see this in its full wizardry with a very, very large American-based company. I don't know if I'm allowed to say. But anyways, there's hundreds of thousands of people they put through this, put through the whole program, and just the vibe. Everybody was just so into this. You could just like feel it in the room. They were talking about it, and everybody was just like, "Oh, it's changed their everyday, their life. They feel good about coming to work now." And again, it was just not only did it change and affect the bottom line, but it really resonated with the employees that I said, I don't mind coming to work every day because just things have changed. So it's so huge, so huge. So then again, I know we keep going back to proven, reliable ROI, but it's just so, so important. Okay,
Yeah,
so we do have, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, if I may. So when you're
Yeah,
thinking about
you
return
may.
on investment and you're talking about the partnerships and you're talking about, like I mentioned it, I have done this with my children and it worked. That's where that was the game changer for me. I was like, okay, I can do this with employees, but can I work this with my children? Oh my gosh, this works. So, you know, the thing is that when they were able to see this, then they go to work, right? Because
Yeah.
I have adult children. Um, they go to work and they then start that process at work, and it just continues to keep spreading. That's all that it's doing. Like the magic continues to spread and happen, and those aha moments are coming in, and you are literally creating more leaders just because you're asking questions.
Right, right,
It's so interesting how simple it is, but so powerful.
right. I'm pretty sure my husband's been using this on me for years and I didn't know about it. And now it's and now it's like now that I've read the book and I understand it, I'm like, aha, that aha
Right?
moment. Now it's like you kind of start dialing it back and asking the
Right.
question. It changes the dialogue though. It just changes the whole mood of everything. Mark,
Yes.
did you want to touch base on this or should we just keep going to a couple more
Just
questions while we have time?
just 2 seconds up and on Barbara. If people want to talk to us, they can just go to the contact us page on that website you gave, and then book time with us. We'd love to fill you in.
Yep. And again, just so everybody knows, you can scan the QR code that's here now for a free consultation. So not only did you get a
Yep.
lot of information today about, just game changing ways to think about your leadership and coaching, but free consultation. So go ahead and please reach out to Mark, reach out to Barbara, and they're happy to sit down with you and actually give you a one-on-one consultation. So really
Yep.
big stuff. That's again just a little thank you for joining us today and getting some good info here. All right, our next question, and we're going to try to get to the last few here if we can. This one's from Matthew Robinson. Matthew asked, does operational coaching require an organization to have a learning and coaching environment already in place? That's a great question. Really good one. Mark, you want to take it?
For sure, yes. Well, any organization that has a learning culture, of course, benefits from this easier, faster, obviously, right? If they're realizing we're all lifelong learners and therefore open to new ideas, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's from that perspective, it's a straightforward answer. If that's not so much the case in your organization for valid reasons, right? Or not so valid reasons. Um, it's yes, there's a little bit of an investment to get to know this, get to learn this, and catch yourself and changing your own behaviors, and that's what you learn in these courses. To recognize these moments, right? To change your behavior,
Yeah.
and then of course then start changing others' behaviors. So, but once you've made that investment, as we saw earlier in the numbers, um, you start practicing it without the people even noticing. And initially, it's not as in, oh, I just taught you something, and now we need to sit down and need to teach you something. It's simply, responding differently to when they come to you with questions, right? So
Right.
some people didn't notice it. So learning culture or not, it's basically, you start practicing it. And as I said, sometimes people notice, sometimes people don't, but eventually people feel more empowered and that cultural shift is going
Right.
to happen. So I would say it works in both environments. One will pick up on it faster because of the culture is already into, open
Right.
mindset, yeah, learning, and others maybe not so much, but they benefit from it as well. It works
Right.
in any organization.
Again, that's what I love about it, just so, any industry. And I
It
think it's
does,
Yeah.
like, if you talk about, again, you're building those relationships that you probably wouldn't have had before. If it's just,
Yes.
I have to
yeah,
go jump through hoops to get something done or talk to somebody or have something fixed, and I'm just
right,
sitting here twiddling my thumbs versus feeling like, I
yeah,
can build a relationship with somebody and, it's just so much more impactful and powerful. And again, whether your
yeah.
company already has this environment or not, it works,
Yeah.
right? It can work. Just got to
Mhm.
put in
Yeah.
the time and investment. So, all right. So we
That's
have a couple. Oh, I'm
oh,
sorry, Barbara. Go
sorry,
ahead.
I did it again.
Sorry. That's
um
okay.
just really quick on that last question. One of the big things that's going on right now are a lot of people are starting their own, businesses, right?
Mhm.
And this is a great way where going and if you're trying to become that leader and understand how to ask those powerful questions, and you're going to be hiring people, or you want to ask your vendors certain questions. Like, there's so many different areas that this can help in, and can grow. So, when it comes to, do they have to have a learning and coaching environment? I do agree with Mart if they have one. Now, granted, not all learning and coaching environments are open,
Right.
to new things. So that also comes into play. It just takes one person. It's that simple.
Right. Right. Don't you kind of think now's the time? I know I touched on this earlier, just
Yes.
kind of hammering on this,
Yes.
It
but
is.
I mean, just again, with just everything that's
Yes.
going on right now, all the uncertainty, just a lot of
Yes.
changes for the
Yeah,
good, better, or worse, right? We have so much going
Yeah.
on. So
right.
don't you think now's the time to, instead of people kind of not sure what's happening, just kind of dig in, right? Now's the time to
Yes.
make these changes and have these good conversations and change how
Yes.
you're
Mhm.
developing your, either you're, like you said, developing a new business or
Yeah,
working with your established business and connecting with
Yep.
your employees. And so I just feel like this couldn't be here at a perfect time. Again, tried and true
Yeah.
and tested. And here in the States now is a perfect time, right? So it's just so important.
yeah.
So important. All right, we've got a few minutes left, guys. We're going to try to roll through a few more questions if you guys do not mind. Let's get into a couple more here. Okay, the next question is from AJ. AJ says, how do you get individuals to think laterally about their work so that they are able to think about risk and impact and then make decisions? Great question. Really good question. Wish I had thought of this one.
uh,
All right.
it's it's a very good question for sure, indeed. I would go straight back to that empowerment.
Yeah.
Um, when you are encouraged, right, to think, and you're encouraged to look also at the situations from a risk and an impact perspective, just like your leader would do. Yes. It may not happen in the first question, it may not happen in the first week or the sixth week, but we see typically that the true results kick in after 3 to 6 months, in that time frame, right? It's not as in one and done, like Barbara said
Right.
earlier.
Right.
Yes, but in that time frame, it also allows you to start, looking at things from a broader perspective. If you feel, because the follow-up question from your leader will be, so what do you think the risk will be, or what do you think the impact will be?
Right.
Right. In other words, the leader will continue to ask these questions and encourage you to also think that way. In other words, it's all about these questions and the way you ask these questions, and the way you make people feel heard and seen and empowered. In other words, it's only a matter of time, and people will include the impact and risk and other aspects, cost,
Right.
efficiency gains, is there ROI, and so on.
Right.
As I said, it won't happen overnight, but with the right questions, you will get there.
Well, I think that's important, right? Because it's not just there's so many solutions out there, just a one and done, take the scores and you're going to be fine and you're going to be magical and all
Right.
this stuff.
Uh-huh.
And it's just not,
Yeah.
it's not true, right?
No.
So I think, like you kind of mentioned, this is like a long-term solution.
Mhm.
It's like kind of building those habits, right? Building a habit, not only
Sustainable.
with you, a sustainable habit. So these
Yes.
things take time. It's not just again one and done, set or forget it. It just doesn't work that way. It's got to be constantly nurtured and things. So again, I think it's like building habits, not just for you, but for your employees and everything.
Exactly.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
all right, guys, we're running out of time. We're gonna do the last one more question quickly. Let's see here. Okay, we've got last question that we're gonna take today because we're running out of time. It's from Sarah Carter. Sarah's question is, this is a great one. What are some common challenges with operational coaching? Challenges. What are some of the issues?
I can start. Honestly, it would be where people think it is one and done.
Right.
It is, the magic will happen right when they ask that first question. And it doesn't happen.
The
like
unicorns
that.
come out.
Right. It's like, the magic. No. It takes consistency. It takes patience. It's kind of like when you put everything in the front, and at the end, it just sort of runs itself because you
Right.
put the effort into it. You have to allow people the time to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, because this
Love
is
that.
something that's completely different. And a lot of people are not that way. They're not wired that way. Right. And that's one of the challenges is people want immediate. And that's just in our daily society. It's like
Right.
we want everything now, right now. So
Yeah.
that would be one of the
I
challenges.
love that.
that
Be
I've seen.
comfortable with being uncomfortable. I'm going to use that in my everyday. I'm going to use that. Just a real quick, I just want to also remind you guys about the resources once again that you have access to here in the resource tab. So if you want to follow up on all the things that we're talking about, just go to that resource tab. Did you want to have one last comment to this question, Mark?
The perception that it
comfortable?
is more work, that's a misunderstanding, as if it's more. Yeah, traditional coaching is more, but this is not more work. It's replacing, the way you act as a leader, in essence.
Right.
And the other challenge is that sometimes people look at their leaders as in they have all the answers. They have all the answers. No, they don't. Right. But collectively, we'll come up with these answers. So that's why they start asking these questions.
Right.
Right. So let's not
Right.
pretend that we have all the answers as leaders. It's not. So you start answering. You start asking better questions, basically, and that's another shift, because leaders have a tendency to do sometimes shortcuts. Well, doesn't always work. In most cases,
Right.
it doesn't. Right.
Yeah.
So these are some of these challenges. Yeah.
Yeah, we've all been there, right?
Right.
People think
Yeah.
they know exactly what's going on, and maybe they actually don't. All right, guys,
Yeah.
we're running out of time, so I'm going to just kind of get your guys' last final remarks. I know we talked about a lot today, a lot of great questions. So again, thank you so much to everybody that joined the call today, and all the great chat and the socials and the poll. We really appreciate it. Do you guys have anyone kind of last, bit of information or tips or tricks? What do you guys think? You guys want to give your last few thoughts on this?
I'll go first. So I'm gonna put this in the most simplest terms I possibly can. We said that people are going to regain their time back, right? And leaders reclaim their time because they stop doing everyone else's thinking for them.
I love it. Love
It's
that.
that simple. It's that simple. So instead of your team constantly coming to you for answers, they actually start coming up with the answers themselves because you've coached them to, you've empowered them to. So, I know for me, I got a lot of my time back. So, sometimes a full day, and all because I challenge and I ask those questions.
Right. Yeah. And that comes back to the title of our show, regaining some
Yeah.
time, getting a day. Time is money. We all know that. It's, so important.
Yeah.
Mark, did you have any last final comments?
Yeah, just to sum it up, what Barbara said, it's less doing, the work of others as a leader, less managing or micromanaging, however you want to put it, and freeing up time to do more leading and also coaching. Make coaching
Right.
part of your leadership style, in essence. Because coaching, there's actually Sir John Whitmore who had something to say about that. There's another quote coming up. Yep. He said,
Martin's
coaching
quotes.
is coaching is unlocking people's potential to maximize their own performance. It's helping them to learn rather than teaching them.
I love that. I haven't heard that one. That's a good one.
Mhm.
It's a really good one. Thanks,
That was a good
Mark.
one. Yeah, that was a good one.
Love it. So just a couple quick plugs before we wrap things up here. First of all, remember the book is The Answer is a Question. Any
Yeah.
information that anybody wants, you want to say, hey, what are my next steps? How do I find out more? Again, QR codes, lots of information, resources here. Contact Mark, contact Barbara, free consultation. They'll talk to you and you can just dig deeper into this and learn more about again, about the course, about the program, learn more about it, get some consultative advice here and kind of take that next step if you want to. So just to kind of wrap it up, guys, just again, thank you so much for everybody who joined the show today. We had a lot of people here. Thank you so much for the producers. Great job. Well done. And again, thank you so much, Mart and Barbara, for taking all the
Thank
time
you.
today to talk to everybody here. And again, don't forget, everybody, over on our APMG International website, don't forget you can search for answers to over 3,000 questions. It's a comprehensive free resource connecting you to over 200 experts from around the world. And then also don't forget, you can listen to the audio versions of our shows on whatever podcast platform you want. And then don't forget, of course, to take a moment to like, comment, share, all that fun stuff. It doesn't cost you anything. It will help us to help other folks kind of discover our content. So also stay tuned, our upcoming events. We have our next one, which is Wednesday, April 2nd. This is called Building Bridges. It's Frameworks Driving South Africa's Development. And then on Wednesday, the 30th, we have the APMG Partner Spotlight, which is with DVMS Institute and the NIST Cybersecurity Framework Overview. So again, all these details are on apmginternational.com. Thank you so much again, Mart and Barbara, for taking the time out today and talk about Star Manager and how awesome it is. Thank you so much, everybody. Happy Friday. Have a good weekend, and we'll see everybody on the next show. Thank you.